The Steelers only allowed 138 rush yards. That's almost 60 yards less than the Ravens average, which means TJ Watt, Buddy, Javon, Cameron, y'all were doing your job against the Ravens last season. And really, it was such a close game. It was 26-23, and the defense definitely kept the Steelers in the game because we know the Steelers struggled on offense last season. So we really could see, with the improvement of the Steelers offense, we really could see them sliding past the Ravens this season. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video with me. Today we're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Pro Football Focus had the Pittsburgh Steelers as the #1 defensive line coming into 2020. And who is that because of? We already know. It's because of the combo of TJ Watt, Bud Dupree on the ends, and then Cameron Hayward and Stefan Tuitt on the interior defensive line. TJ Watt, that stud on the end, ended with the highest pass rushing rating in 2019 with 91.7. He had 81 pressures. 81 pressures. That is huge. Bud Dupree on the other end had one of his best years. He had a career high in pressures. He had a career high in run defense and pass rush as well. Now, Stefan Tuitt spent a lot of last season hurt, and he was replaced by Javon Hargrave, interior defensive lineman who is now with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers D-line is so deep. They have linemen to spare. Like, they literally lost Javon Hargrave in free agency and is not going to miss a beat at all, because between Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Stefan Tuitt, they have the best D-line in the league, and they were literally side by side with the Philadelphia Eagles. Isn't that crazy? The two Pennsylvania teams. So the Philadelphia Eagles are their D-line charge is being led by now Javon Hargrave from the Steelers in the interior, Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, Derek Barnett on the ends, and Brandon Graham on the end. Two stud D-lines in the city of Pennsylvania. Like, it's going to be, I wish, D-lines can go head to head, but those D-lines are going to be awesome to watch. But we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward and Bud Dupree are all coming off their best years, and they're not going anywhere. This D-line combined, and mind you, Stefan Tuitt was hurt, so this was with Javon Hargrave playing on the interior, only allowed 109 yards per game on average. In 2019, the Steelers led the league in quarterback pressures. 30% of quarterback dropbacks were led with that extra pressure from the Pittsburgh defensive line, and the defensive line only allowed 109 yards per game on average. And that D-line is going to be tested because they come up against 4 of the top 6 offensive lines of 2020. The Ravens, who they have to play twice, who they got beat by twice last season. The Browns, who are actually having a much improved offensive line coming into 2020, they have to play them twice. The Colts and the Dallas Cowboys. Now let's break down these offensive lines that the Steelers will have to come up against and see how they will match up. The Indianapolis Colts come into 2020 with the #1 offensive line after last season having about the #3 offensive line. They're coming with the same guys, but much improved. This offensive line is led by Anthony Costanzo, is one of the league's best left tackles, and he finished #9 last season in offensive lineman, #4 in run blocking. Anthony Costanzo, we will probably see matching up with TJ Watt, one of the defensive ends, one of the best pass rushers, not only for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but in the league. So it will be definitely interesting to see Anthony and TJ Watt going at it. One of the best run blockers, one of the best left tackles, going up against one of the best defensive ends in the league. Braden Smith is at right tackle for the Colts, and he finished at #9 in offensive linemen for the 2019 season. He was #4 in run blocking. It's looking like, Bud Dupree would be on him on that right side, and the Steelers did match up with the Colts last year, and the Steelers came out with the win and had 5 sacks against the Colts last season. So if I was Steelers, I'm not really worried about this Colts matchup because they were able to penetrate that offensive line last season. There's no reason why they can't penetrate the offensive line this season. I mean, yes, Javon was playing in place of Tuitt, but I feel like Tuitt can do it as well. The Dallas Cowboys. We don't see the Steelers and the Cowboys matching up too often, but this year we get to see this movie. The Dallas Cowboys is led by left tackle Tyron Smith, who's really been holding down the Cowboys offensive line for years and is no letting up for him. So we can definitely see TJ Watt and Tyron Smith matching up in 2020, and that'll be a fun matchup to watch because, like I said, we don't get to see the Steelers and Cowboys often. Zach Martin is the right guard for the Cowboys, and he's one of the reasons why the Cowboys have a top offensive line. Zach Martin leads the league, not number one, but he's top 5 in pass and run blocking. For an interior lineman, that is huge. The Cowboys also have a young Lael Collins at right tackle who's coming into his own. He's coming into his own very well. So Steelers need not to take him lightly. I know Bud Dupree, TJ Watt are two very confident guys, but they need not to take Lael lightly, okay? Lael finished with a number 3 run blocking grade in his 2019 season and also had an 86 overall grade at right tackle, which is very impressive for such a young tackle. Now the Steelers have to play the Baltimore Ravens twice, and the Baltimore Ravens are in the top 5 offensive lines coming into 2020, and that's because of left tackle Ronnie Stanley, who boasts a 90+ grade when it comes to offensive linemen. He only allowed 10 quarterback pressures on 543 attempts. That is a heck of a lot of relaxation he was giving Lamar Jackson last season, and the Steelers have to match up with the Ravens twice. Last season the Steelers came up a little bit short with the Baltimore Ravens, but they matched up pretty well with the D-line and the O-line, okay? I told you the Steelers averaged around 109 yards per game that they allowed in 2019. So I wish I could find really specific stats on how offensive linemen and defensive linemen matchups, but they're so hard to find, you guys. But I did find some very interesting stuff for you guys. So the Baltimore Ravens averaged 206 yards per game last season. We already know the Baltimore Ravens had an extremely explosive offense, especially rushing with Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson. But the Steelers' defensive line held the Ravens to 138 rushing yards in the first game that they played last season. I didn't include their matchup in December because the Ravens were resting players, so it's not really a fair matchup. But their matchup earlier in the season, the Steelers only allowed 138 rush yards. That's almost 60 yards less than the Ravens average, which means TJ Watt, Buddy, Javon, Cameron, y'all were doing your job against the Ravens last season. And really, it was such a close game. It was 26-23, and the defense definitely kept the Steelers in the game because we know the Steelers struggled on offense last season. So we really could see, with the improvement of the Steelers offense, we really could see them sliding past the Ravens this season because their defensive line could be getting better with Stefan Tuitt better back and healthy. And just those numbers, Javon and Bud both had a sack against the Ravens. TJ Watt had a sack and he got a piece of Lamar Jackson with 1 quarterback hit. So that matchup with the Ravens and the Steelers is going to be so fun to watch this season now that the Steelers have a little bit more oomph on their offense because their defense definitely did their job last season. So the Cleveland Browns had the number 6 offensive line headed into 2020, and their offensive line really took a turn through free agency and the draft. So I was really surprised, but after looking at their draft picks and what they did in free agency, the Browns earned their spot in the top offensive line, and the Steelers are going to have to be prepared to have a game with the Browns, especially Nick Chubb. You know, he likes to run. So let me tell you what the Browns did this offseason. First, they signed Jack Conklin to a 3-year deal, and he had, since being in the league, I think he came in 2016, he's been one of the top tackles, and he had a number 11 run blocking grade last season. So top 11 run blocking grade. They added a huge piece in Jack Conklin, but they didn't stop there. Number 10 overall, the Cleveland Browns drafted Jedrick Wills from Alabama as their left tackle. Now, in 2019 at Alabama, he only allowed 7 pressures in his last 9 games. That is huge. No, he's going to be a rookie, but I mean, Alabama football, SEC football, we can expect a lot from these guys coming into their rookie year of the NFL. Their center, J.C. Treader, has been very steady over the past couple of years, and Chris Hubbard is going to be kind of a swing tackle. So they do have depth in their offensive line, and the Steelers don't have to be prepared for that matchup. Now, the Steelers and the Browns did split last season, but I don't really want to go off of the numbers from last season because they have a totally new offensive line, the Browns do. So the Steelers have one of the studiest studs of a defensive line, a nasty defensive line. It was really close between the Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles, 2 Pennsylvania brothers. It was really close on their defensive lines, but the Steelers came out number 1, and they well deserve it. So we're definitely going to be watching out for a lot of these matchups between the Steelers and these other teams, especially the Steelers and the Ravens and the Steelers and the Cowboys. It's going to be so fun to watch. So we're going to keep an eye on TJ Watt. We're going to keep an eye on Bud and the interior guys. Like I said, they lost Javon Hargrave, but they're not going to miss a beat with Stefan Tuitt coming right back into his position in the interior defensive line. So stay tuned. Let me know what you guys want to see in my next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. Bye.